no one wants to be reliant on anyone else who might be a bit unstable. But Canada is taking the view that this is long term. Mark Carney is saying this is a rupture. It's not a transition, it's a rupture. That this is long term, and it could well be long term. And Europe has to face up to the same thing. Now, some are. Emmanuel Macron is also trying to urge other European leaders that this is a change and we need to be alive to it. But of course, he's only in power for another year or so. Ursula von der Leyen she hasn't given any indication as to a definite direction, but she is also urging people to have a think about this, that sitting tight is no longer an option, because what comes after Trump is not necessarily better. And if it is, it's not necessarily materially better. And even if it is, it's not necessarily permanent. It could well be the case that America flips with its elections from wanting to engage constructively with its allies to not even accepting that it has allies. I mean, at the moment, it's quite clear that the US administration doesn't regard Europe as an ally. It regards it as best a business partner. It's purely about the money.
And I think part of the problem and part of the cause of this surely has to be the fact that Britain in particular has never really questioned anything that America has done in recent history. We've always just gone along with everything America has done. And America doesn't ever expect any kickback. You look at the wars in Iraq, the wars in Afghanistan. We've never held America to any moral standards. We've never expected America to behave within the boundaries of international law. But we criticize any country that goes against America. So America is used to just getting its own way with no kickback. And surely it's a great example now. I mean, Trump's the worst president for this to happen with, because the minute you go against Trump, he just disregards you. So America have never really had anyone holding them to any form of moral standards, have they? And they're not used to it. And when it happens, they're just washing their hands with us.
I mean, part of this is, of course, because we're so dependent on them for trade and defense and intelligence. If, for example, we were to break off our intelligence ties, the UK would be attacked more often. The UK is constantly, there are not necessarily countries, although there are countries where we need to be concerned, but there are groups who are constantly trying to organize attacks on British soil, just like French soil and American soil and so on. And the only reason these attacks are few and far between is because of intelligence. In fact, whenever there is an attack, it always ends up being an intelligence failure that's cited, whether it be the Manchester bombings or whatever.
9/11.
Sorry?
9/11.
Yeah.
We're supposed to listen to all these American security experts, and they didn't see 9/11 coming. Yes, intelligence failures, of course, are the reason why attacks are successful.
The idea is if we broke off that intelligence sharing, there would be more successful attacks. Like Russia is actively empowering groups to attack European capitals anyway. It does it directly, but it does it through proxies as well. There is an active effort on the part of at least Russia to destabilize Europe with attacks. So that would still happen, and we would still need if we don't have American intelligence, not just the UK, we can't do it, but Europe as a whole would have to massively ramp up its own intelligence operations. And not just one point is, I mean, you've brought this up. So the idea that a particular country does something that is clearly against international law. One country does it and we call it out instantly. Russia, for example, because we are not dependent upon Russia for anything. We don't have military cooperation. We don't have trade cooperation, really. We don't have intelligence cooperation because they are actually a threat to us on all three. So we can easily call out Russia for every little thing it does wrong. And at best, with America, we have to go, it's still what we would do. And that's about it. And that's because we are utterly dependent upon America for intelligence, defense, and trade. And Carney called out these double standards. And he said, we shouldn't do this. We should actually call out bad behavior no matter where it comes from, which is a brilliant idea, but probably not realistic. because, some countries are very dependent on other countries and not others, So although, yes, if the whole world, I mean, if you just take China and Russia to one side and you take America to another side, and if the rest of the world, all of the middle and smaller powers all got together as one and said, yes, we're going to form this thing where we abandon tribalism and we just call out bad behavior where it exists and we call out good behavior where it exists, with no thought to where it is within our own sphere of influence, that would be marvelous. But I don't think the world's going to do that. Whereas where Carney was, I think, probably more on the money was in talking about the fact that he said, if you are not at the table, you are on the menu. He said the choice is really this for middle powers. It is, you have a choice. You can either compete with each other to appease the great powers and get whatever you're given, or we can work together to make sure that we are a match for them. And again, the model for that is the EU. The EU has already done this. It's shown it can do this. So if the British public can have that conversation and be aware that, yes, we can't really do anything against America, but as a team we could, if we band together with other countries, if you show combined GDPs of all the countries that we can work together with, Canada and the rest of Europe, then that can challenge America. And all of a sudden, so if Europe fires back with trade sanctions against America, that will be noticeable. Trump can, and there will have been a bit of that. Trump's climb down this week on both the tariffs and the threat of military action against Greenland. There will have been persuasion in there, but there'll have been a stick as well as carrot.